Before the stadiums roared, before the world knew their names, they were something more. From the spirit of the fiercest athletes on earth came champions forged not in fire, but in fate. 10 divine heroines, warriors of unimaginable power, summoned to a celestial battlefield where gods fall and legends rise. Inspired by the grace, strength, and unshakable will of real-world champions, this is not just a fantasy. This is destiny, reimagined. Welcome to the Celestial Tournament, War of the Divine Realms. Prologue, The Broken Balance. Long before the age of mortals, before the kingdoms of men and the rise of empires, the realms of existence were kept in balance by an ancient order, the Celestial Tournament. 10 divine warriors, chosen from the fabric of reality itself, stood as champions of creation. They were not just warriors, they were symbols of harmony, balancing the forces of light and shadow, chaos and order. But harmony is fragile. Something shifted. Something was forgotten. A war long erased from history. A betrayal buried beneath the sands of time. And a power, sealed away, waiting to awaken. Now, as the celestial balance falters once more, 10 heroines, bound by fate yet divided by their pasts, must uncover the truth. A truth that could shatter the world, or reshape it entirely. The War of the Divine Realms is about to begin. Chapter 1, The Call of the Champions. The realm of eternal storms. Paula the Thunder Empress. Lightning tore across the heavens, splitting the blackened sky over the Stormspire citadel. Thunder rolled through the air, rattling the very foundations of the empire built upon the storm. At the highest balcony, Paula stood unmoving, her storm-wreathed eyes fixed on the churning clouds above. She could feel it, something unnatural in the air, something watching. Then, it came. A gash of golden light ripped through the sky, illuminating the citadel in its blinding radiance. The wind died. The storm stilled. And from within the rift, a voice not of this world spoke. Paula, Thunder Empress of the Eternal Storms. The Celestial Tournament calls. Will you answer? She exhaled, her grip tightening around Stormfang, the spear that had slain emperors and gods alike. So, it's real after all. For centuries, the tournament had been whispered about, an event of gods and monsters, a battle fought beyond mortal understanding. But no one had seen it. No one had returned to tell its tale. And yet, here it was. Calling her. She smirked. I was growing tired of ruling anyway. With a single step forward, she let the celestial force pull her into the light, vanishing from the world she once ruled. The icebound empire, Tajana the Titan Slayer. The battlefield was silent. Too silent. Tajana stood alone amidst the ruins of a fallen colossus, its frozen body shattered by her war hammer. Around her, the tundra stretched endlessly, cold and lifeless. She should have heard the howling winds, the distant roars of frost-dwelling beasts. But the world was holding its breath. Then, the sky cracked open. A jagged tear of pure energy split the heavens, spilling golden radiance over the snow. Tajana didn't flinch. Instead, she rolled her shoulders, feeling the dull ache of past battles settle into something sharper, something new. Tajana, breaker of titans. The tournament awaits. She exhaled sharply, a cold mist escaping her lips. I've killed kings, I've slain giants, but gods. Now that's new. With a smirk, she lifted Frostfang, tapping the ice beneath her. The tundra cracked, then shattered, pulling her into the celestial abyss before the world could take another breath. The moonlit vale. Maria the Shadow Dancer. In the heart of the moonlit vale, shadows danced without a source. They whispered secrets that no ear could hear, curling around the ruins of an ancient temple where a lone figure stood. Maria Stenzel had known this moment would come. She had seen it in dreams, in visions glimpsed from the darkness between worlds. The tournament was not just a legend. It was real, and it was waiting. A silver-blue rift opened before her, its glow casting eerie light against the surrounding trees. But unlike the others, Maria did not look up. She smirked, as if she had been expecting it. The voice that followed was not a command. Not a question. Shadow dancer of the moonlit vale. You have always belonged between worlds. Come. Maria let her daggers twirl between her fingers before sheathing them in one smooth motion. A game of gods, played in the dark. She took a step forward, vanishing into the rift. How could I possibly resist? The grand summoning. Across the realms, 10 champions were chosen. Some welcomed the call. Some feared it. Some suspected the truth hidden behind the golden light. Because while the tournament had always been spoken of as a trial of strength, whispered voices in forgotten temples told a different story. No victor had ever returned. And the celestial rifts were opening too early. Somewhere, in the shadows beyond mortal sight, something stirred. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. And the tournament had only just begun. Chapter 2, The Arena of Eternity. A realm outside time. When Paula's feet touched solid ground, the air around her hummed with energy. The arena of eternity stretched infinitely in all directions, a battlefield that was neither land nor sky. The floor beneath her was smooth, like polished obsidian, yet shifting with flowing golden patterns, as if the arena itself was alive. Above, the sky was a swirling expanse of cosmic storms, galaxies forming and collapsing in an endless dance. A distant sun burned with a cold, blue fire, casting an ethereal glow over the warriors arriving one by one. Paula wasn't alone. She turned, her gaze sweeping across the figures materializing from rifts of golden light. 10 champions. 10 realms. One fate. Some, like Tajana, stepped forward with a warrior's confidence, her warhammer resting on one shoulder as if she were already measuring her opponents. Others, like Maria, lingered at the edges, eyes calculating, disappearing into the shifting light, as if testing the very fabric of this place. And then there were those who looked too calm, as if they knew something the others didn't. A voice, deep and omnipresent, shattered the silence. Champions, you stand at the heart of existence. They turned toward the center of the arena, where a colossal being loomed above them. A celestial judge, robed in shifting constellations, his eyes black voids filled with distant stars. His voice echoed across time itself. The celestial tournament begins now. One victor shall rise. The rest shall fall. The tension of rivals. A murmur rippled through the warriors. Some looked eager. Others, uneasy. One victor. Tajana smirked, resting Frostfang against the ground. Figures. Every so-called balance of power always ends with someone at the top. Zera, the titan of the Sky Fortress, gave her a sidelong glance. You sound like you've already accepted that it won't be you. Before Tajana could reply, a sharp laugh cut through the air. Maria Stenzel was nowhere to be seen, until she stepped from a shadow that shouldn't have existed, her dagger twirling lazily between her fingers. Oh, this is going to be fun, she mused. They throw 10 of us into a ring, promise one winner, and expect us to play by the rules. Her smirk widened. Tell me, has anyone ever questioned why no champion has returned? The words landed like a stone in deep water. A ripple of unease spread through the champions. No victor had ever returned. And none of them had asked why. The first trial, the arena awakens. Before the weight of Maria's words could settle, the celestial judge raised his hand, and the arena shifted beneath them. The smooth floor cracked apart, transforming into jagged peaks, rivers of molten gold, and gravity-defying cliffs that floated in the air. A deep rumbling echoed from below, as if the tournament itself had been waiting to be awakened. "Your first trial begins," the judge declared. From the shifting terrain, spectral warriors emerged, faceless figures of light and shadow, wielding weapons made of pure cosmic energy. Hundreds of them. Survive. That was the only command. And then the warriors attacked. Chaos and strategy. The battlefield erupted into violence. Tijana met the charge head-on, swinging Frostfang with earth-shattering force, sending multiple foes flying. Sparks of electricity danced through the air as Paula unleashed a storm, her spear crackling with thunder as she cut through the spectral army. Monica, the celestial guardian, raised an ethereal shield, its glowing barrier repelling the onslaught of enemies. Meanwhile, Maria slipped between the shadows, moving faster than the eye could track, her blades finding the gaps in the spectral warrior's defenses. But the battle was more than just brute strength. Ekaterina, the arcane sorceress, stood still amid the chaos, her hands weaving delicate runes in the air. The moment an enemy neared her, they collapsed into dust, as if their very existence had been rewritten. Gabby, the Phoenix Queen, fought with fire and fury, wings of flame erupting from her back, as she tore through the battlefield like a living inferno. But not all were eager to fight. Maria noticed it first. Some warriors were watching, not attacking. Testing them. She narrowed her eyes, stepping back from the fray. Something about this wasn't right. The hidden truth. As the battle raged, one by one, champions began to disappear. At first, it seemed like they were being defeated, vanishing in bursts of golden light, when overwhelmed by the spectral warriors. But then Maria saw it happen to a warrior who hadn't even been touched. She moved quickly, vanishing into the shadows and reappearing at the edge of the battlefield, where the air shimmered strangely. And then she saw it. Beyond the chaos of the fight, the arena was feeding on them. The disappearing champions weren't being defeated. They were being erased. Her breath caught. This wasn't a tournament. This was a trap. Chapter 3, The First Betrayal. The Vanishing Warriors. Maria gritted her teeth. The battlefield was chaos, flashes of steel, bursts of elemental fury, the air thick with the scent of burning ether. But amid the violence, something far more sinister was happening. Warriors weren't falling. They were vanishing. One moment, a champion was locked in battle, parrying a spectral warrior's attack. The next, a golden light flickered around them, and they were gone, erased without a trace. No body. No cry of pain. Just gone. Maria's pulse quickened. This wasn't a fair fight. This wasn't a tournament. It was a culling. A whisper in the void. She pressed herself against a fractured pillar, concealed in the shadows, watching. Testing the pattern. The disappearances weren't random. They were targeted. The weaker ones vanished first. The ones who hesitated. And then she saw something else. At the edge of the battlefield, beyond the illusion of endless space, a figure stood. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. Maria's heart pounded. The celestial judge was motionless at the center of the arena, but this figure, this presence, was something else entirely. A whisper curled through the air, cold and amused. You see it, don't you? Maria stiffened, but before she could respond, the ground beneath her trembled. Something was coming. The battlefield turns. Paula struck the last of the spectral warriors with a surge of thunder, her breath heavy but controlled. Around her, the battlefield was beginning to shift again, like a game board being reset. That's it. Tijana scoffed, swinging her hammer onto her shoulder. I expected more from this so-called tournament. You should be more concerned, Monica said, stepping forward. Her celestial armor glowed faintly, her eyes scanning the battlefield. Some of our strongest warriors just disappeared. Maybe they were too weak. Zera crossed her arms. The tournament doesn't tolerate weakness. Maria stepped from the shadows. No, she said, voice sharp. They weren't weak. They were taken. The group turned to her. Taken. Gabby narrowed her eyes. By what? Maria hesitated. She had seen something, someone, but how could she explain what she didn't fully understand? Before she could speak, a new sound cut through the air. A slow, deliberate clap. The betrayer revealed. A figure emerged from the rippling light, at the battlefield's edge, stepping onto solid ground as if materializing from the very fabric of reality. She was one of them. Ekaterina, the arcane sorceress. But something was different. The glow of her runes was darker, her normally pristine robes streaked with shifting shadows. The air around her was wrong. Twisting. As if it no longer belonged to this world. Well done, she said smoothly, clapping slowly. You've lasted longer than most. Tijana tensed, gripping her hammer. What is this? Maria already knew. She had seen the pattern. The disappearances. The figure in the void. You knew, she whispered, staring at Ekaterina. You knew this wasn't a real tournament. Ekaterina smirked. Of course. A wave of energy erupted from her, the ground beneath them shattering into floating shards of golden light. The illusion of the battlefield flickered, and for a brief moment, they saw what lay beyond the arena. An endless abyss. And within it, shapes moving. Twisting. Watching. Not gods. Not celestial beings. Something else. Something hungry. The truth unveiled. The celestial tournament is a lie, Ekaterina said, stepping forward. It was never about crowning a champion. It's a ritual. A sacrifice. The champions stiffened. Every century, 10 of the strongest warriors from the realms are brought here. Not to fight for victory, but to feed them. A pit of dread settled in Paula's stomach. Feed who? Ekaterina smiled. The ones who control this place. The ones who control everything. The celestial lords. The name sent a shiver through the battlefield. I made a deal, Ekaterina continued, tilting her head. One must always survive, to lure the next generation of warriors. And in return, I was given a gift. She raised her hands, and the shadows at the edge of the arena surged forward, not just illusions, but sentient, living darkness, twisting into monstrous forms. And now, Ekaterina said, her voice turning almost playful, it's time for the real game to begin. The battle for survival begins. The champions barely had time to react before the abyss came alive. The shadows lunged, dozens of creatures spilling from the rift, their forms shifting between humanoid and monstrous, eyes glowing with otherworldly hunger. Tijana roared, swinging her war hammer as the first creature lunged at her, shattering it into black mist. Paula summoned a storm, electricity crackling in her veins as she unleashed a lightning surge, burning away the advancing darkness. Maria moved instinctively, disappearing into the shadows, reappearing behind Ekaterina with a dagger pressed to her throat. End this, Maria hissed. Before I do. But Ekaterina only laughed, unfazed. Oh, Maria, she whispered. You still don't understand, do you? She turned her head slightly, her eerie gaze meeting Maria's. You can't kill me. And then she vanished, into the shadows themselves. Maria's dagger struck empty air. The battlefield erupted. The celestial tournament was no longer a contest. It was a war for survival. Chapter 4, The Arena Breaks Apart. The weight of realization. Maria couldn't breathe. The battlefield wasn't just breaking apart, it was unraveling. The truth of the tournament settled in her chest like a lead weight, heavier than any wound she had ever endured. We were never meant to win. She had suspected it. She had seen the signs, the missing warriors, the celestial judge's flickering form, the way the arena bent and twisted as if controlled by an unseen will. But now, standing in the midst of the crumbling arena, she felt the full force of it. They were pawns in a game that had never been about victory. It had always been about sacrifice. Paola's voice cut through the chaos, her breath ragged. He said one of us has to take his place. The words echoed like a death sentence. Tajana clenched her fists. That's not happening. Zera exhaled sharply, her wings twitching. If we don't, the celestial lords will awaken. The void pulsed. They could feel it breathing now. The presence beneath them wasn't just watching, it was waiting. Maria looked at her comrades. One of them had to stay behind. Forever. And if no one did, the universe itself might be consumed. How do you make a choice like that? The breaking point. The judge's voice was failing, his once mighty celestial form reduced to fading fragments of light. He struggled to keep his presence intact, his hollow eyes flickering. The balance must be maintained, he whispered, his voice barely holding together. Maria wanted to scream. Balance. Balance. How was this balance? 10 warriors stolen from their realms, made to fight in a tournament that was nothing more than a ritual sacrifice. The celestial lords didn't care about balance. They only cared about sustaining their power. Zera's expression hardened. We've been nothing but fuel for them. Paola's grip on her spear tightened. Then we need to break the cycle. But how? Who was willing to give up everything to stop this? A shiver ran through Maria's spine. What if none of them were? The mind of a betrayer. Before anyone could answer, the air rippled. A slow, deliberate clap rang through the space. Maria turned sharply. Ekaterina. She emerged from the swirling abyss, her form now half shadow, half flesh, her celestial runes rewritten, her very presence wrong. And she was smiling. Not with malice. Not with cruelty. But with understanding. She knew. Maria's heart pounded. Ekaterina had always been the most calculated of them. The most pragmatic. She had studied the tournament more deeply than any of them, had questioned the celestial rules when others accepted them. And now, she stood before them, changed. I see it now, Ekaterina whispered, stepping forward. I understand what you're feeling. The rage. The helplessness. The betrayal. She tilted her head. I felt it too. And then. I let go. Maria's hands clenched. What did you do? Ekaterina's expression softened. I stopped fighting fate. Her voice was soothing, almost gentle. We are not meant to escape this. We are meant to become it. Tajana took a step forward, her hammer trembling. You're insane. Ekaterina sighed. No. I am free. She gestured around them. The tournament is not just a battleground. It is a throne. And for the first time in 1,000 years, someone finally took it. The realization hit them all at once. Ekaterina had already claimed the judge's position. The choice that never was. Maria felt her stomach drop. They had been debating who would stay behind. But the truth was, they had already lost that choice. Ekaterina had made it for them. And now, she wasn't just a participant anymore. She was in control. A slow smirk curled on Ekaterina's lips. You should be thanking me. Zera's eyes flashed with fury. You betrayed us. Ekaterina's gaze didn't waver. No. I saved us. Maria shook her head. By becoming their servant. Ekaterina laughed. You still don't get it, do you? Her form flickered, the abyss breathing around her like a living entity. I'm not their servant. I'm their successor. The shadows around her twisted into a throne, a seat of pure void, pulsing with unholy power. You see, Maria, Ekaterina whispered, I wasn't strong enough to break the system. She sat down. So I became it. The psychological collapse. The champions stood frozen. Maria felt her thoughts spiral. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was a war of belief. Ekaterina had accepted the rules. She had embraced them. And now she was offering them a choice. Stay, she murmured, and I will ensure you have a place in this new order. The void whispered behind her, countless voices merging into a haunting melody. Or resist, her smile turned sad. And become nothing. The arena shifts. The battlefield stilled. For the first time, the champions were no longer fighting an enemy they could see. They were fighting a decision. Tijana's hands shook on her war hammer. Her rage had always guided her, but this wasn't a battle she could smash through. Paola's mind raced. Her power had always been to protect. But what if protecting meant accepting a new reality? Monica's breath came fast. She had always trusted in celestial balance. But what if the celestial balance was the lie all along? Zera's wings flexed. She had been raised to follow duty, to obey the laws of the divine. But what if those laws were just chains? Maria closed her eyes. This was the moment. This was where everything changed. And the scariest part. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what the right choice was. Chapter 5, The Game of the Betrayer. The silence before the storm. The void whispered. For the first time, the battlefield was silent, not with peace, but with the weight of impossible choices. The 10 champions, warriors who had fought across divine realms, now stood at the precipice of something greater than war. They weren't fighting a monstrous enemy, or an overwhelming force. They were fighting a decision. Maria clenched her fists. Ekaterina sat on her throne of shadows, her form both ethereal and terrifying, an abyss given shape. The air around her crackled with raw, divine power, power she had taken for herself. The former judge was gone. The celestial lords had paused their awakening. And now, the tournament belonged to Ekaterina. No. Maria exhaled sharply. Not just to Ekaterina. To us. If we let it. That was the real battle now, not with swords or fire, but with conviction. Ekaterina's golden eyes glowed in the darkness. No words. No outbursts. She tilted her head, the faintest trace of amusement on her lips. I expected more from you all. Tijana's knuckles went white around the handle of her war hammer. You think you've won? Ekaterina gave a slow, deliberate nod. Of course. Haven't you realized? This was never a fight. It was a selection process. And I was simply the only one willing to take the seat. Monica stepped forward, her celestial shield reflecting the void's shifting colors. And now you expect us to serve you? Ekaterina laughed. Serve me? No, no, my dear Monica. She gestured around them. I am not a tyrant. I am offering you a choice. A pulse of energy rippled from the throne. The void responded, swirling into shifting forms, visions, possibilities. In one, Monica stood beside Ekaterina, leading divine armies in a war that would reshape the celestial balance. In another, Paola ruled over a storm-racked kingdom, unchallenged and eternal. Zera saw herself soaring over a newly created realm, one untouched by war, where she reigned supreme. Each of them was being tempted, not with power, but with a future. A future where they mattered. Ekaterina's voice was soft now, almost kind. You were never meant to be forgotten champions. You were meant to be gods. A shudder ran through Maria's spine. She means it. Ekaterina wasn't manipulating them with fear. She was giving them something real. And that made her even more dangerous. The cracks in the resolve. Paola's hands twitched at her sides. If we refuse, what happens to us? Ekaterina's smile didn't waver. You already know the answer. The void pulsed. Maria felt it. A slow, suffocating pull. The tournament needed a ruler. Without one, it would consume everything. Ekaterina had stabilized it, for now. But if they resisted, the tournament would fight back. Tijana's breathing was ragged. You think we'll just stand here and let you rewrite the rules? I think you'll do what every warrior does, Ekaterina said smoothly. You'll choose survival. Silence. And then. No. The voice was steady. Cold. It was Zera. All eyes turned to her. The winged warrior stood tall, her golden armor dimmed but unbroken. I refuse. Ekaterina exhaled softly, as if disappointed but not surprised. So noble. Zera took a step forward. I don't fight for power. I fight for freedom. Ekaterina tilted her head. And what if this is the only freedom you'll ever get? Zera's wings spread wide. Then I will make a new one. Lightning flickered in Paola's eyes. Fire curled around Gabby's hands. Maria felt her pulse quicken. They weren't broken. Not yet. Ekaterina sighed. Then I suppose there's only one thing left to do. She snapped her fingers. The world shifted. The new tournament begins. The battlefield twisted, the remnants of the celestial arena breaking apart, reshaping into something new. Maria barely had time to react before the ground beneath her vanished, and she was falling. No, they all were. She caught glimpses of the others as they plummeted, Zera's wings flaring out, Paola twisting lightning through the air, Tijana roaring in fury. And above them, sitting on her throne of void, Ekaterina watched. A smile played on her lips. Let's begin, she whispered. And then. Darkness swallowed them all. Chapter 6, Beneath the Surface of Fate. The Abyss of Awakening. Maria's consciousness drifted. There was no sound. No air. No sense of time. Only the sensation of falling, not through space, but through something deeper. She tried to reach out, to grab hold of anything, but her limbs refused to move. Where am I? Memories flickered like dying embers. The tournament. The betrayal. The throne of shadows. Ekaterina. The weight of the name sent a shiver through her mind. Then, a voice. Wake up. Maria's eyes snapped open. She was floating in an endless void, her body surrounded by shimmering strands of light. They pulsed and coiled around her, moving like living veins through the abyss. The strands whispered, voices of the past. Fragments of other warriors. Other champions. Other victims. Maria reached out instinctively, but as soon as her fingers brushed the glowing threads, a jolt of pain shot through her skull. You were never meant to win. The words were not her own. They came from deep within the abyss. She clenched her teeth, forcing herself to focus. No. I will not break here. The strands twisted and shifted, forming images. She saw Paola, lost in a storm of her own making. Tajana, wandering a battlefield where the corpses never decayed. Zera, trapped within an eternal sky, her wings unable to move. Each of them had been cast into their own trial. Anne Maria. She had been thrown into the depths of forgotten warriors. The place where souls vanished. Her chest tightened. No. I am not done. She forced herself forward, swimming through the void, her muscles screaming in defiance. The strands tried to pull her back. Tried to whisper defeat into her mind. You were never meant to escape. Maria gritted her teeth. Then watch me. The burden of the storm. Paula stood at the center of a raging tempest. The winds howled, lightning crackled at her fingertips, but it was all empty. No land. No sky. No past. No future. Just her, alone in a storm that never ended. At first, she had tried to control it. She had summoned lightning, had commanded the winds. But no matter what she did, the storm obeyed, yet never faded. She was not fighting it. She was becoming it. She clenched her fists, frustration growing. What is this? A voice whispered through the wind. Your true self. The storm laughed around her. This is who you were always meant to be. Power without direction. Energy without purpose. A storm that rages, but never moves. Paula's breath came fast. No. That wasn't true. She had always fought for something. Her home. Her people. Her sisters in arms. She was not without direction. She was not just a storm. She was the one who guided it. A surge of clarity burned through her chest. Then prove it. The wind screamed. And for the first time, Paula took a step forward. The weight of wings. Zera was falling. Her wings refused to move. The sky stretched infinitely, a realm of endless blue, no ground, no clouds, nothing but the sensation of descent. She had tried everything, twisting, turning, calling upon her celestial heritage. But something was wrong. Her body still had wings. But she could not feel them. As if they had been stolen from her, as if they were no longer hers to command. No. That's impossible. Zera had always been defined by flight. She was the wind's chosen, the sky's warrior. Without her wings, who was she? A voice whispered around her. You are weightless, yet you fall. You have wings, yet you plummet. Perhaps you were never meant to fly at all. The words cut deep. A part of her almost believed them. But then, a memory surfaced. Of standing at the edge of her kingdom's highest tower. Of jumping, not knowing if she could truly fly. Of that single, terrifying moment before the wind caught her. That was the truth. Zera had never been given wings. She had claimed them. Her eyes flashed open. And as she fell, she did something different. She stopped trying to fight it. And she let go. The wind screamed around her. And then, her wings moved. The awakening. Maria broke through. She ripped herself from the void's grasp, her body shattering through the abyss like a meteor crashing through glass. And as she gasped for air, her feet touched solid ground. She had escaped. Or rather, she had found the path back. A vast battlefield stretched before her. And on the horizon, she saw them. Paula. Zera. Tajana. Monica. Each of them had endured their own personal abyss. And now, they had returned. Maria exhaled, her heartbeat steady. Ekaterina thought she had broken them. She thought she had rewritten the game in her favor. But what she had truly done was make them stronger. Maria's lips curled into a smirk. Round 2, Ekaterina. Let's see who really wins this game. Chapter 7, The Unchained Strike. The battlefield reforged. Maria stood at the edge of the battlefield, the broken remains of the celestial tournament's old arena stretching before her like a scar on reality. Ekaterina's throne of shadows loomed in the distance, untouched, unmoved, as if waiting. But Maria knew better. Ekaterina wasn't waiting. She was watching. And she expected them to hesitate. Not this time. The others emerged from the void's grasp, each of them standing taller than before. Paola's storm crackled around her, no longer wild, but controlled. Zera's wings stretched wide, their edges glowing like molten gold, radiating newfound power. Tajana twirled her war hammer, her eyes burning with the fury of a warrior who had tasted death and spit it back out. They had returned. And they were done playing Ekaterina's game. Maria turned to them, voice steady. No more tests. No more illusions. We end this. Now. A gust of wind swept across the battlefield, carrying a whisper that sent a shiver down her spine. A single word, spoken by the void itself. Prove it. The Shadow Queen's welcome. The throne room was not as they had left it. The once crumbling walls were now rebuilt with shifting, pulsing veins of dark energy. The air itself seemed alive, twisting and bending around them. Ekaterina sat on her throne, one leg crossed over the other, watching them with amused curiosity. She did not rise. She did not flinch. She simply smiled. You're early, she mused, tapping her fingers against the armrest. I thought you'd take longer. Tajana stepped forward, gripping her war hammer. Spare us the theatrics. Ekaterina raised an eyebrow. Oh? But you love the theatrics, don't you? The grand entrances, the heroic speeches. She gestured lazily toward the battlefield outside. You came back, and yet, you don't even understand what you're fighting for. Maria's pulse quickened. She's stalling. She glanced at the others. They felt it too, this wasn't just another mind game. Ekaterina was waiting for something. But what? Maria tightened her grip on her sword. We're done with your riddles. We're taking the throne back. Ekaterina sighed. Taking. Oh, Maria. That's where you're wrong. She leaned forward, her golden eyes gleaming. This throne isn't stolen. It's earned. And then, she moved. The first strike. Ekaterina was fast. One moment, she was on the throne. The next, she was in front of them, her blade clashing against Maria's in an explosion of sparks. The force sent Maria skidding back, her boots digging trenches into the stone floor. Zera dived from above, blades aiming for Ekaterina's throat. But her strike passed through air. Ekaterina wasn't there anymore. She reappeared behind Zera, fingers just barely grazing her wings. A pulse of energy ripped through the air, sending Zera crashing to the ground. Before anyone could react, Paola struck. Lightning surged from her fingertips, arcing like a spear of pure light. Ekaterina smirked. And then, she caught it. The lightning coiled around her hand, crackling, burning, but it didn't hurt her. It obeyed her. Paola's breath hitched. What? Ekaterina squeezed her fist, and the lightning vanished. Predictable, she murmured. And then, she attacked. The counterattack fails. Ekaterina was one. They were many. And yet, she fought like she was the storm itself. Tajana's war hammer shattered the ground, but Ekaterina danced through the cracks like smoke. Monica's shield blazed with celestial fire, but Ekaterina's blade carved through it like paper. Every attack they launched, she was already 3 steps ahead. Maria's breath came fast. She's too strong. No, that wasn't it. She wasn't just strong. She knew them. Their fighting styles. Their weaknesses. Their every move before they even made it. It was like she had already fought this battle before. Maria's stomach twisted. How? Ekaterina dodged another attack, her movements almost bored. You don't get it, do you? She sighed, brushing dust off her shoulder. You keep fighting like this is still your tournament. She lifted a hand, the ground split apart beneath them. Darkness spilled out. A force so ancient, so consuming, it sent a ripple through the fabric of reality itself. Ekaterina smiled. This is my tournament now. And the battle truly began. Chapter 8, The Frostborn Betrayal. The Fracture in Reality. Maria barely had time to react before the ground collapsed beneath her feet. A howling void opened beneath them, swallowing everything in an abyss of shifting shadows. The battlefield was breaking apart. Paola cried out as she was pulled backward, her storm flickering against the consuming darkness. Zera tried to fly, but something dragged her wings down, as if the air itself had turned against her. Ekaterina stood untouched, watching with a cold, knowing gaze. Maria drove her sword into the crumbling ground, trying to anchor herself. Stay together, she shouted. But then, she felt it. A sudden, sharp pain in her back. Her breath caught. She turned her head. And saw Monica's blade buried between her ribs. The Frostborn Betrayal. Time slowed. Maria's vision blurred as she staggered forward, the icy blade lodged deep. Monica's face was unreadable, her golden eyes empty of emotion. Maria tried to speak, but no words came. Monica twisted the blade. And whispered, "Forgive me." Maria fell. The battlefield vanished. The Queen's Gambit. When Maria's vision cleared, she was no longer in the throne room. She was somewhere else. A frozen wasteland stretched endlessly in all directions. The sky was fractured, jagged shards of light reflecting an unreal sun. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her hands clutching at the wound, only to find it gone. She was alone. Except a shadow moved in the distance. Maria forced herself to stand, her muscles aching. Who's there? A figure stepped forward. Tall. Cloaked in silver frost. Eyes the color of a dying winter. Maria's breath caught. Monica. But it wasn't her Monica. It was a version of her that seemed older. Colder. Untouched by time. The frostborn Monica tilted her head. You weren't supposed to wake up this soon. Maria's pulse raced. What is this? Monica exhaled, her breath forming intricate patterns of ice in the air. This, she gestured around them, is what happens when the game is played too long. Maria clenched her fists. This isn't a game. Monica smiled, but there was no warmth. Isn't it? The rift of forgotten futures. Back in the throne room, the others watched in horror as Maria's body collapsed, her sword clattering to the ground. Paola screamed. Zera rushed forward, but Monica turned on them, blade still dripping with Maria's blood. A cruel silence filled the air. And then, Ekaterina laughed. Oh, Monica, she purred. I told you it would be easy. Paola's storm exploded. What did you do? Ekaterina merely smiled. I didn't do anything. Monica lifted her blade again, her face unreadable. I chose this, she said simply. And then, she attacked. Chapter 9, A Shattered Bond. The battle against their own. Tajana barely had time to react before Monica's blade sliced through the air, its frost-tipped edge aimed at her throat. She twisted, narrowly avoiding the strike. Monica, she shouted, trying to reach her friend through the madness. But Monica didn't hesitate. She moved with precision, striking with the cold, merciless efficiency of a warrior who had already decided. Ekaterina stood back, watching like a queen amused by her own cruelty. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" she mused. "To fight against your own. To question everything you thought was real." Paola's storm flared. "Shut up." She launched a bolt of lightning, but Monica raised her sword, splitting the strike in two. The energy crackled against her frost-touched armor and disappeared. Paola's breath hitched. Zara landed beside her, eyes locked on their friend-turned-foe. "This isn't Monica. It can't be." But as Monica turned to face them, her golden eyes were still Monica's. And that terrified them more than anything. Maria's prison of ice. Maria stood in the frozen world, watching as Monica's frostborn reflection circled her like a predator. "This isn't real," Maria whispered. Monica smiled, a hollow, distant smile. "You're right. But that doesn't change anything." Maria clenched her fists. "If you're really Monica, you wouldn't do this." The frostborn Monica tilted her head, as if considering the thought. "I am Monica. Just, not the one you know." A gust of icy wind swirled around them, whispering with voices long forgotten. Maria's pulse quickened. "This place, it's alive." "Where am I?" she asked. Monica's expression darkened. "You're where all lost warriors go." Maria's breath caught. "Lost." Monica exhaled, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were never supposed to leave." The desperate reach. Back in the throne room, Tajana dodged another strike, frustration twisting in her chest. "We can't fight her like this," she yelled. Zara's wings flared. "Then what do we do? Let her kill us?" "No," Paola growled. "We reach her." Monica lunged again, this time toward Zara. But before her blade could land, Paola stepped in front of her. Monica's sword stopped inches from her chest. "Silence." Paola met Monica's eyes. "Mon, I know you're in there." For a moment, just a moment, Monica hesitated. Paola reached for her hand. "You told me once that frost isn't just cold, it preserves. It protects." Her voice shook, but she held firm. "So what are you protecting?" Monica's fingers trembled against the hilt of her sword. Then, a crack split through the air. A shadow curled around her wrists, tightening like chains. And Maria, trapped in the frozen realm, felt it too. The prison of ice began to fracture. Maria closed her eyes. "Monica, I'm coming for you." And then, the ice shattered. Chapter 10, Chains of the Unseen. Maria's return. The prison of ice shattered around Maria in an explosion of frozen shards. She fell through the void, her body weightless, her breath sharp with the lingering chill of that otherworldly realm. And then, she hit the ground. Pain shot through her, but she didn't stop moving. She was back. The throne room was a storm of chaos, lightning, steel, and the blurred forms of her friends fighting for their lives. And in the center of it all, Monica, standing rigid, her sword trembling in her grip. Maria saw it now. The shadows coiling around Monica's wrists weren't just illusions. They were real chains, binding her movements, twisting her will. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a possession. But by what? The phantom's whisper. Maria barely had time to rise before Ekaterina turned to her. "Oh," she mused, tapping a finger against her chin. "Back already?" That was disappointingly fast. Maria's grip tightened on her sword. "Let Monica go." Ekaterina smirked. "Oh, my dear." And then, for the first time, her gaze flickered. Not at Maria. At something behind her. Maria felt it before she saw it. A cold breath against her ear. A whisper, crawling into her mind, low, ancient, hungry. She does not belong to you. Maria whirled around, but nothing was there. Yet the presence remained. And Monica, her chains tightened. She gasped, dropping to her knees, her golden eyes flickering with pain. Maria's chest tightened. She's fighting it. But something stronger was pulling her under. Ekaterina sighed. You always think you're fighting me. She waved a hand lazily. But I was never the one you should fear. A ripple spread through the throne room. The shadows at Monica's feet shifted, not just darkness, but something alive. A form began to rise. Something was awakening. The Warden of Chains. The temperature in the room plunged. Monica gasped, her breath coming in ragged bursts, as the shadows around her solidified. A figure emerged. Towering. Hooded. Its body made of shifting black mist, its face an empty void. And in its grasp, chains. Not just on Monica. On all of them. Maria's stomach dropped. This wasn't just some dark force. This was a warden. A being that did not serve kings or queens. It judged. It took. It erased. And it had chosen Monica. She is ours now, the warden's voice rasped, as if spoken from 1,000 dead mouths. Monica screamed. Maria ran. She slashed at the chains. And her sword passed through them like smoke. Her heart pounded. No. No, no, no. Ekaterina laughed softly. You wanted the truth. She leaned forward, chin resting on her palm. Then tell me, Maria. Her eyes gleamed with something dangerous. Do you really know who Monica is? Maria froze. And in that moment of hesitation, the warden struck. A wave of force blasted outward, slamming them all back. The chains tightened. Monica's scream was cut off. And then. She was gone. Vanished into the darkness. The warden had taken her. Chapter 11, The Warden's Judgment. The chase into darkness. Maria barely had time to think. One moment, Monica was there, bound, screaming. The next, she was gone. Taken by the warden. Maria's pulse pounded in her ears. No. Not again. A burst of wind and lightning erupted beside her, Paula and Zera. Their eyes burned with the same desperation she felt. She's still close, Paula gasped, gripping her staff. I can feel it. Maria didn't hesitate. She sprinted toward the fading trail of shadows, her blade still drawn, ignoring the way her legs screamed in protest. The others followed, the battlefield vanishing behind them as they plunged into the realm of the unseen. The realm between. It wasn't a place. It was a void. A plane of flickering light and shifting darkness, where whispers curled like smoke, voices of the forgotten pressing against their skin. Zera's wings flickered, her feathers trembling. This isn't right. This place. It's a prison. Maria's voice was tight. And somewhere within it, Monica was trapped. Paula raised her staff, summoning a crackle of light. It barely illuminated anything. The shadows devoured it hungrily. Maria clenched her teeth. We don't stop. We don't turn back. We. A sound cut through the void. A deep, rattling breath. Then. You should not be here. The warden emerged from the shifting dark, its towering form looming over them, chains twisting like living serpents. Maria lifted her sword. Give her back. The warden did not move. She is already claimed. The chains rattled, and suddenly, the void around them changed. A prison formed. And within it, Monica. She was suspended mid-air, eyes closed, her body wrapped in layers of spectral chains. Maria's heart clenched. Monica. Her friend did not respond. The warden tilted its head. You do not understand. Its voice was not cruel, but it was final. Absolute. She does not belong to you. She was never truly yours. Maria gritted her teeth. What does that mean? The warden did not answer. Instead, it attacked. The judgment of the warden. The chains lashed forward. Maria barely had time to react before one wrapped around her arm, burning like cold fire. Paula and Zara fought beside her, their magic slamming into the warden's form, but it did nothing. The warden did not fight with rage or fury. It fought with certainty. As if it had already won. You cannot break what has already been written. Maria gritted her teeth, twisting against the chains. No. That's not true. You think she was yours to save, the warden's voice echoed through the void. Maria's pulse froze. The chains tightened. She belonged to us long before she belonged to you. Maria's breath caught. The warden raised a hand, and the prison around Monica began to shift. Memories poured from the chains. And for the first time, Maria saw them. Monica's past. A past Maria did not know. The unseen truth. A battlefield. Not this one. Another. Long before they had ever fought together. Monica, standing alone. Her sword dripping with frost and blood. Surrounded by the bodies of warriors. And behind her, a warden. Maria's chest tightened. What? Monica's voice rang out, raw and quiet. I accept my fate. Maria's heart dropped. Erase me. The warden had not taken Monica. Monica had surrendered to it. The battle against fate. The vision shattered. Maria was back in the void, her breath ragged, her body aching. But now, she understood. Monica wasn't just possessed. She was bound by something deeper. A promise. A fate she had already chosen long before they met. She gave herself to us, the warden said. You have no right to take her back. Maria lifted her sword. And for the first time, the warden hesitated. Because Maria didn't believe in fate. And she sure as hell wasn't about to let it take Monica. She lunged forward. And struck directly at the chains. The void cracked. The warden recoiled. And Monica's eyes flew open. Chapter 12, The Frostborn's Burden. The Awakening. Monica's eyes flew open. The void trembled. The chains rattled around her, but for the first time, they did not tighten. Her mind, fractured and lost in the endless cold, began to piece itself back together. She could hear them. Maria. Paula. Zara. Calling her name. But a deeper voice, one she had long buried, whispered back. You made a choice. The warden's presence loomed behind her, silent yet suffocating. You do not belong to them. Monica clenched her teeth. For so long, she had believed that. For so long, she had let it be true. But Maria's strike against the chains had done something. Cracks were forming. And in those cracks, Monica felt something she had nearly forgotten, herself. The girl who had once believed in freedom. The warrior who had once fought beside her friends without doubt. The one who had chosen this fate, but not anymore. A frozen past. Memories flooded through her. She was younger, standing in a battlefield of frost and silence. Her hands trembled on her sword, her body bruised, her breath coming in ragged bursts. She had been the last one standing. She had fought for a kingdom that no longer existed. The warden had come to her then, not as an enemy, but as salvation. "You have lost everything," it had said. "Let us take your burdens. You will never have to carry them again." She had been cold. She had been tired. And so she had accepted. A warrior without a home. A soul without a purpose. A weapon that could be wielded by something greater than herself. The chains had bound her ever since. And she had never questioned them until Maria shattered them. Breaking the chains. Monica gritted her teeth, her pulse pounding. "No." The warden shifted. "You cannot deny what you are." But Monica was already moving. She lifted her hands and pulled. The chains resisted. They had been hers. They had protected her. But they were not her fate. She screamed, every muscle in her body straining. And the first chain snapped. A rush of power surged through her, not of the warden, but of herself. The second chain broke. Then the third. The warden hissed, its formless shape flickering as the prison around her collapsed. Maria's voice reached through the void. "Monica, take my hand." For a moment, Monica hesitated. If she took it, she would never be the same. She would no longer be the warrior who had surrendered her fate to the warden. She would have to choose her own path and face everything she had run from. Her past. Her pain. Her own mistakes. But when she looked at Maria, at Paula, at Zara, she knew. She wasn't alone. She reached out. And took Maria's hand. The last chain shattered. The void exploded into light. The warden let out a sound, not of rage, but of recognition. "You are no longer ours." And then, it was gone. Return from the void. Monica collapsed to her knees, the weight of her own body suddenly real again. Maria knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "You idiot," Maria whispered, voice shaking. "You should have told us." Monica let out a breathless laugh. "I didn't think I could." Paula crouched beside her, nudging her arm. "You fought fate itself, and won. You know that, right?" Monica exhaled. The chains were gone. The warden was gone. But deep inside, she knew, this wasn't just about fate. The battle wasn't over. Because now, she had to live with the choices she made. And whatever had been waiting behind the warden's judgment, was still coming. Chapter 13, Ekaterina's Gambit. A Queen in the Shadows. Ekaterina watched from the shattered remains of the throne room, her expression unreadable. The warden was gone. Monica was free. And yet, Ekaterina did not move. She traced a finger along the armrest of her throne, her sharp nails clicking against the polished stone. The moment she had been waiting for had finally arrived. And no one, not Maria, not Monica, not even the warden, had realized what they had truly done. A smirk curled at her lips. "Fascinating," she murmured. The moment Monica shattered the chains, the seal had weakened. The very thing Ekaterina had been waiting for. And now, the true power beneath the kingdom was stirring. A history buried in ice. Deep beneath the throne room, hidden where no mortal dared to tread, the seal cracked. It had been there for centuries, an ancient ward forged not by kings, nor by gods, but by something even older. It had been made to contain the sleeping one. A being whose power could twist reality, whose very presence could warp the fabric of the realms. A being that Ekaterina had been trying to awaken all along. The warden had been an obstacle, a jailer of fate, but fate itself had never mattered to her. Ekaterina had played her role perfectly. She had let Monica fall into the warden's grasp. She had let Maria believe in salvation. And when Monica broke free, she had unknowingly broken the last piece of the seal. Ekaterina tilted her head, listening. A distant rumble echoed through the castle's foundations. Yes. It was waking. The Queen's true intentions. The doors behind her burst open. Maria, Monica, and the others stormed in, blades drawn, eyes burning with exhaustion and rage. Maria's voice was sharp as steel. What did you do? Ekaterina sighed, lazily resting her chin on her palm. Oh, darling. You did it. Maria's hands tightened on her sword. Paola's magic crackled in the air. Even Monica, still recovering from her battle with the warden, glared at her with suspicion. Ekaterina met Monica's gaze and smiled. You really don't remember, do you? She mused. What you were meant to be. Monica stiffened. What are you talking about? Ekaterina leaned forward. I told you before, you never truly belonged to them. She tapped a finger against the throne's surface, her voice turning almost gentle. You were supposed to awaken it. Not fight it. A ripple of cold shuddered through the room. The ground beneath them split apart. And from the darkness below, something stirred. Monica's blood ran cold. Because somewhere deep inside, she recognized it. She had seen it before. She had dreamed of it. And now, it was real. Chapter 14, The Awakening of the Forgotten One. A shudder through reality. The castle trembled. Cracks spidered across the floor, black energy slithering from the widening chasm beneath the throne. Maria barely had time to react before a deep, resonant hum filled the air, not a sound, but a feeling. It crawled up her spine, clawed at the edges of her mind, threatening to pull her into something vast, something endless. And then, it spoke. At last. I rise. A gust of freezing air roared through the chamber, nearly knocking the heroines off their feet. Monica staggered back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Because the voice, she knew it. Monica's forgotten past. Memories pounded against her skull. Flashes of a battle that had been erased from time. A younger version of herself, standing in an ice-covered battlefield. Blades clashing. Voices screaming. And at the center, a godly being of pure entropy. Its body was a shifting mass of dark frost and liquid shadow, its presence bending reality itself. The sleeping one. Not a god. Not a demon. Something older. Something that should not exist. And she had been the one to seal it away. I fought it. The realization hit her like a hammer. Not only had she fought it, she had been chosen to imprison it. And yet, here it was. Awakening. Because she had broken the chains. Because she had freed herself. And in doing so, she had freed it. The terror takes form. A massive clawed hand emerged from the rift. Dark tendrils twisted and coiled, dragging the rest of the impossible entity into reality. The room itself buckled under its presence, the very air warping as though rejecting its existence. Maria gritted her teeth. What the hell is that? Ekaterina only smiled. The end of all things. Paola raised her staff, her magic flaring, but the moment she tried to channel an attack, her light flickered and died. Zera's wings trembled, her breath sharp. It's devouring the magic around us. The sleeping one lifted its head, a hollow abyss where its face should have been. You cannot escape what has already begun. And then, it moved. A pulse of pure void energy exploded outward, sending them all flying. Maria hit the ground hard, her vision spinning. She barely managed to roll to her feet, gasping for air. Monica, however, hadn't moved. She stood there, frozen. Because the sleeping one was looking at her. You were my jailer. Its voice echoed inside her head, reverberating through her bones. Now, you are my herald. The choice that must be made. Monica's hands shook. A part of her, a deep, ancient part of her, understood what it meant. She had sealed it before. She had given everything to lock it away. And now, with the seal broken, it wasn't here to fight her. It was here to claim her. She was meant to become its vessel. Its chosen one. Its second awakening. A surge of cold fear shot through her veins. Maria's voice cut through the rising dread. Monica. She turned, and saw Maria running toward her. Fierce. Unwavering. The same way she had always been. The same way Monica had once been. And suddenly, she knew. She had a choice. Become the sleeping one's vessel, or fight. Her heart pounded. Her mind screamed. And in that moment, Monica chose. Chapter 15, Defying the Abyss. The first strike. The sleeping one loomed, its form shifting between reality and the void, a writhing mass of dark frost and liquid shadow. Maria's instinct screamed at her, attack now, or die. She didn't hesitate. With a roar, she launched herself forward, sword blazing with golden fire. Her blade met resistance mid-air, like striking against the very fabric of existence itself. Then, the world bent. A shockwave ripped through the battlefield, distorting space, sending Maria hurtling backward. She barely managed to twist mid-air, slamming her blade into the ground to stop herself from flying straight into the crumbling walls. It bends reality itself. Paula shouted, gritting her teeth. She raised her staff, attempting to channel a spell. But her magic faltered again. The sleeping one was devouring all energy around it. Zera's gamble. Zera took to the air, her emerald wings blurring with speed. She dove straight for its head, her twin daggers crackling with celestial energy. If magic wouldn't work, then she'd carve the thing apart herself. Her first strike landed, but there was no flesh. Only an endless abyss. Her daggers sank into nothingness, and suddenly, she couldn't pull them back. Her body froze, her vision blurring as if something was pulling her soul out of existence. No. A force slammed into her from the side, breaking her free. She hit the ground hard, gasping. Paula stood over her, sweat dripping down her brow, a warding glyph flickering on her palms. That thing doesn't just consume magic, Paula panted. It consumes reality. Zera's hands trembled as she clutched at her chest. For a second, just a second, she had felt herself being erased. Paula's desperate strategy. Paula wiped her brow. Think. It was absorbing magic. It was consuming reality itself. But everything had a limit. If the sleeping one was feeding, then that meant it was using energy. And if it was using energy, then there had to be a moment when it needed to replenish itself. She focused, studying its movements, the way space flickered around it, the pattern of its distortions. Then she saw it. Every time it shifted, even for a fraction of a second, there was a tiny ripple, a slight hesitation in the distortions. An opening. Her heart pounded. Maria, she shouted. It's not invincible, but we have to time it perfectly. Maria met her gaze and nodded. The counterattack. The sleeping one moved again, its massive claw sweeping across the battlefield. Maria, Zera, and Paula scattered in different directions. Paula was counting, her mind locked in perfect concentration. 3 seconds. 2. 1 now. Maria, strike. Maria vanished in a burst of speed. With every ounce of strength, she drove her blade into the exact point Paula had calculated. For the first time, the sleeping one reacted. A low, guttural sound rumbled from its shifting form. A weakness. A weak point. Maria's eyes blazed with determination. We can hurt it, she growled. That means we can kill it. The sleeping one's wrath. But the moment they thought they had gained ground, everything shifted. The air turned heavy, the battlefield darkened. A wave of unimaginable pressure crashed down on them. Zara's knees buckled. Paula gasped, struggling to stand. Maria's fingers tightened on her sword, but even she could barely hold herself up. The sleeping one had been playing with them. And now, it was done pretending. You cannot win. Reality itself fractured as the sleeping one unleashed its full power. Maria's heart slammed against her ribs. Because in that moment, she realized they couldn't survive this. Unless Monica made her choice. Maria turned toward her. Monica still stood frozen in place, the creature's abyssal gaze locked onto her. Maria shouted. Monica. Monica trembled. Then, she finally moved. Her eyes snapped open. And what Maria saw in them was not fear, but resolve. Chapter 16, The Forgotten Truth. The moment of decision. The battlefield stood on the edge of annihilation. The sleeping one's presence choked reality itself, warping existence with every breath. Maria, Paula, and Zara struggled to stand, their bodies barely able to resist the crushing weight of its power. But Monica, she stood tall. She wasn't frozen anymore. Her eyes blazed, not with fear, but with understanding. Because in that moment, she remembered everything. Not just the battle. Not just the ceiling. The truth. The sleeping one's revelation. You remember now, don't you? The creature's voice was no longer monstrous. It was almost gentle. Maria's breath hitched. The way it spoke, this wasn't just an enemy. It knew Monica. Monica took a step forward. I was never your jailer. She clenched her fists. I was your guardian. The air cracked with tension. The others stared at her in shock. What? Maria rasped. What are you saying? Monica turned, her voice steady. The sleeping one wasn't our enemy. She looked back at the creature. You weren't sealed because you were evil. The sleeping one rumbled, its massive form shifting, but no longer in aggression. You understand at last. The ancient deception. Ekaterina's laughter cut through the silence. The queen clapped her hands, stepping forward. Oh, how delightful, she purred. You actually put the pieces together. Maria's sword snapped toward her. Explain. Now. Ekaterina sighed, running a hand through her silver hair. Fine. Since we've reached the finale, I might as well tell you the truth. Her smirk faded. The sleeping one wasn't imprisoned, because it was a monster. She gestured toward Monica. It was imprisoned, to erase Monica's true identity. Maria's stomach dropped. Monica went pale. Paula gasped. That doesn't make sense, why would anyone do that? Ekaterina's expression darkened. Because Monica was never just one of us. Never just a warrior. She tilted her head. She was meant to be a god. The goddess who never was. The words hung in the air like thunder. Maria's pulse roared in her ears. That's impossible. Monica, a god? No. It couldn't be. But somewhere deep inside, Monica knew it was true. Visions flooded her mind. A time before her mortal life. A time when she stood beside the sleeping one. Not as its jailer. Not as its vessel. But as its creator. She had given it form. She had woven its being into existence. And then, she had been betrayed. Her godhood was stolen from her. Her memories were erased. And the very being she had created to protect the balance of the realms had been turned into a monster by those who feared its power. By those who feared her. Ekaterina's true role. Ekaterina watched Monica carefully. "You see, darling," she murmured, "I was never the real enemy here." She spread her arms. "I was simply the one tying up loose ends." Maria's grip tightened on her blade. "So all of this? The warden, the kingdom, the war." Ekaterina smiled. "All to force Monica to awaken." Paola's voice was barely a whisper. "You wanted her to remember." Ekaterina's eyes gleamed. She was meant to take her rightful place. She turned to Monica. "And now, you have a choice, my dear. Will you take it? Will you become what you were meant to be? The final choice." Monica's heart pounded. Her true self. Her divine self. It was right there, just within reach. If she took it, she would no longer be mortal. She would transcend. She would become the goddess she was meant to be. But she turned, looking at Maria. At Paola. At Zara. Her friends. Her family. If she ascended, would she lose them? Could she still be Monica? Or would she become something else entirely? The sleeping one watched her. "I have always waited for your return." Ekaterina smirked. Choose. Chapter 17, The Choice That Defied Fate. A decision that would shape eternity. Monica's mind raced. The truth had been unveiled. She was never meant to be a mortal. She had once stood among the divine. A goddess, a creator, an entity beyond human comprehension. And now, she was faced with a decision that could alter the very fabric of existence. The sleeping one, her creation, her companion from a forgotten past, waited. Ekaterina, the orchestrator of this grand revelation, watched in smug anticipation. Maria, Paola, and Zara, her friends, her family, stood ready, uncertain, but unwavering in their trust. Everything had led to this moment. Choose. The word echoed through her mind, through the battlefield, through the collapsing reality around them. But for the first time, Monica didn't listen. Because she wasn't going to choose between the past or the present. She was going to forge a new path. Rejecting the divine chains. Monica closed her eyes. She reached into the depths of herself, not just the goddess she had been, but the person she had become. The warrior. The friend. The one who fought not for power, not for divinity, but for those she loved. And she realized, she didn't have to pick a side. She didn't have to be only one thing. She opened her eyes, fire igniting in her veins. "I refuse." The sleeping one stirred. "What?" Ekaterina's smirk faltered. "Excuse me." Monica took a step forward. "I refuse this fate. I refuse to be forced into a role I don't want." The battlefield shook. Divine energy crackled around her, raw and untamed. Because for the first time, Monica wasn't just reclaiming her past. She was reshaping it. The power of a new path. The sleeping one shifted, its form trembling between existence and oblivion. "You were my creator," it said, voice laced with something that almost sounded like fear. "You cannot deny what you are." Monica's gaze hardened. "I'm not denying it." She clenched her fists, pulling the divine energy into herself, but refusing to ascend. Instead of becoming a goddess, she was doing something unheard of. She was keeping both her mortal heart and her divine essence, merging them into something new. Something that had never existed before. Ekaterina's expression twisted into disbelief. No, that's impossible. But Monica was already proving her wrong. Her body glowed with a radiant force, not bound by the gods nor limited by mortality. And the sleeping one, her creation, reacted. The liberation of the sleeping one. A crack rippled through the battlefield. The chains of fate, the bindings of reality itself, shattered. The sleeping one shuddered. No longer a prisoner. No longer a monster. Its form stabilized, shifting from an abyssal nightmare into something new. Something free. Maria took a step back, stunned. She's rewriting it. Paola's eyes widened. She's rewriting everything. Monica stood, a mix of mortal and divine, a force of her own making. And in that moment, the war ended. The storm in the sky faded. The shadows receded. Because the very foundation of what had started this war had changed. Monica had not just broken the chains. She had erased them from existence. Ekaterina's defeat, and her escape. Ekaterina's nails dug into her palms. She had played the game well. She had forced Monica to awaken. But this was beyond even her expectations. Impressive, she murmured, lips curling into something between amusement and rage. You truly are different. Maria raised her sword. Give up, Ekaterina. It's over. But Ekaterina only smiled. Oh, my dear warriors, this was never my endgame. The shadows at her feet whirled, and in an instant, she vanished. Paola cursed. She got away. Maria scowled. Coward. But Monica knew this wasn't over. Ekaterina was still out there. Still planning. And the battle they had just fought was only the beginning. The dawn of a new era. The battlefield lay in silence. The sky, once stormy and dark, was clear. The sleeping one, now freed from its twisted fate, stood in quiet contemplation. What now? It asked Monica. She exhaled. That was the question, wasn't it? The war had changed. The world had changed. And she had changed most of all. Maria grinned, clapping her on the back. Guess you've got a new life to figure out, huh? Monica smirked. Yeah. And for the first time in a long, long while, she wasn't afraid. Epilogue, the whisper of the unknown. The world had changed. The battle was over. The heroines stood together at the edge of a new dawn, no longer just warriors of fate, but architects of their own destiny. Monica, now something beyond both mortal and divine, felt the weight of her new existence. She had broken free from the chains of her past, but in doing so, she had altered the balance of the cosmos. The sleeping one, no longer a monster, but something reborn, gave her a final nod before fading into the beyond. Maria stretched, grinning. Well, that was a mess. So, what now? Paola chuckled. A vacation. Zara crossed her arms. You really think we're getting a break? Monica smirked. Not a chance. Because even now, as the sky cleared and peace returned, she could feel it, a ripple, a shift, a whisper in the fabric of reality. Something had noticed what she had done. Something old. Something watching. Far away, in the depths of the void, Ekaterina stood before an unseen force. She bowed her head. It has begun, she murmured. The darkness around her stirred. And then, a voice, ancient and terrible, spoke. She has rewritten fate. Now, let us see if she can face what comes next.